Hi, everybody. Welcome to My Other's Keeper. I am so excited. Tonight's not excited about this part. Tonight's guest ended up getting a really bad headache and she couldn't join us. So, Cosmic Kristy has decided to join us. Yay! So excited to get to know you a little bit more, Cosmic. Um, and is that what you prefer to be called? Is Cosmic?
Yeah, just because conversations with Christy, she's Christy and I'm Cosmic, just to keep us easy to
Separated, yeah.
differentiate. Yeah,
All
and also
right.
it's my nickname. It's my
There
nickname
you
in life
go.
as well. So yeah.
Oh, awesome. How long have people been calling you Cosmic?
I chose my nickname about 10 years ago, something like that.
Nice.
Probably even longer. Yeah, just because I didn't like the ones people kept giving me, so I'm like, I'll choose my own.
Well, there you go. What were people calling you?
Lots of different things. I got called Chuckles for years because I laugh at everything.
Well, you
So
do. Yeah, that's
yeah.
okay.
But
Nothing
it
wrong
made me
with
feel like
that.
an evil clown. Like I was in, I come out and it or something. Chuckles. There's Pennywise and
Yeah.
Chuckles. So,
No,
yes.
Cosmic, I think Cosmic really suits you. From the little bit that I've known you, I see you like 99% of the time. I see you on Meeting and Meeting with Carol and the other array of fabulous people there. I'm glad to have you all to myself. What can I say? I feel blessed. This is great.
You're welcome.
So tell me, what is it you would like to talk about today?
Well, being that it's the last day of Autism Awareness Month for people who are in the past,
for
I'd like to
for those of us very what's the word I'm looking
on the
for?
other side of the
Cute.
timeline.
Yeah, cute past people. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just talk about neurodivergency and how it's affected my life and how it can affect people with a range of different things, like lots of different things.
Absolutely. And neurodivergence is it's so broad that it's actually more normal than normal people are. So you're
Well,
more
every
likely
child
to
is
have
born neurodivergent. Like
absolutely.
they're it's
Yep.
only once they've developed and been in a system for long enough that the behaviours and all that sort of stuff become ingrained,
Yeah.
and then they become neurotypical if they're not already neurodivergent, because brains are
Yeah.
malleable. So
That's true. That's absolutely
yes.
correct. My husband is the only neurotypical person in our house. Um, we have two daughters, and when COVID started out in March of 2020, my girls were both at college, and so the dorms all got shut down. My two daughters moved home, and my older daughter brought her roommate with her. So we ended up with five adults living in a house made for four or two adults and two children. So it's like,
Yeah, I had
okay,
a
this is
similar
getting a little
situation.
crowded.
Yeah, I had my two kids and their two partners living in a house that was made for two adults,
Oh
and so it
yeah.
was five of us there
Oh
basically,
my
and
word.
it was crazy, and it was basically a war zone because my kids hate each
Oh.
other.
Oh
And
no.
so
Oh
yeah,
no.
well,
I'm
yeah,
I'm
so
so
I was
grateful.
like the mediator in between. So
Hmm.
it was so peace. I had to end up moving a couple out so that I could have peace. Um,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's super fun being a mediator between people who are arguing. It's like a war zone.
That's no, that's not fun at all. No, I'm very grateful. My girls get along. They're not each other's best friends, but they get along really well. They are good friends yet. Um, where I had a hard time was I'm used to being the most mentally ill person in the house. Okay, I have a lovely alphabet after my name. None of it has to do with PhD. Oh well. Um, but my older daughter's roommate has an even longer alphabet after her name. So it's like, okay, I didn't give myself permission to feel like I was allowed to be ill, for lack of a better phrase, like I
Perfectly
didn't
makes
give
sense.
myself, yeah, doesn't it? Especially when it's somebody younger than yourself, like it just, as a mom, we're used to saying, nope, not me, not me, not me. And it has to
Exactly.
be all for the kids, right? So
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I think for me, one of the reasons why my diagnosis was so late is because my hyper focus was being a parent.
yeah,
Um, I can't say that I did everything right. I did my best, but I did the best to not be my parents.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I did pretty okay with that, because even though I don't have a relationship with my daughter at the moment, due to some of the difficulties of being a parent with
Yeah.
neurodivergencies, of a child with neurodivergencies,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
it it I still know that I did the best I could, and there's not really anything she
Absolutely.
can come back at me for and say you did wrong at this, except for maybe the situations I put myself in as far as relationships and stuff. But she's young.
Yeah.
Hopefully, eventually, she will learn to appreciate that abuse is not a choice. You don't choose to be abused.
You sure don't.
So, yeah, I hope that she forgives me for putting myself and us in that situation when she was younger.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
up to her. And I have to forgive her for a few things too. So,
Absolutely. Is
yeah.
she in her teens or 20s?
She is 20. She'll be 22 this year.
Okay, so she's almost the same age as my daughters. So it's amazing how once your children are 21, 22, 23 years old, you become so much smarter.
Yeah.
they learn that mom wasn't so dumb after all, and they've
Yeah.
got a little bit more life under their belt, which is really great. So
Well, I think my big mistake was not, I don't know if it was a mistake, to be honest. I tried really hard not to see that my kids, I didn't want them to see that I was struggling financially as a single parent.
mm-hmm.
So in a lot of ways, they didn't know that life was hard, and I wasn't not giving them everything they wanted because I didn't want to. It's because I couldn't. So they
Right.
but they still had phones, Xboxes, internet, roof over their head, food.
Yep. That's right.
But to kids, they want what everybody else has got all the time, and I couldn't do that. And for my daughter, I think she struggled with that even more so because of her neurodivergencies, and yeah, it's a whole
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
thing,
Exactly. It's a spiral, and it just kind of goes around and keeps going and going and going. And yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm very fortunate. Um, when my husband and I were when we were growing up, I grew up in lots and lots and lots of little towns. We moved around a ton when I was growing up. So I got to learn how to make friends real quick, but I didn't learn how to keep friends real well. My husband, on the other hand, had deep roots in one community. And so he really learned the benefit of having that real strong root. So when the two of us got together, it was like, okay, move around or stay, move or stay, move or stay. So before we had kids, we did a lot of moving around. Once we had children, we moved. They were 2 and 3 years old. We moved from the city where we were living to a teeny weeny itty bitty little 500-person town about half an hour north. And it was perfect because, we're basically in a neighborhood. We live in a neighborhood. And my husband works, his office is in that city. So it's only a 30-minute drive. Or he can work from home now due to COVID, right? So yeah, we gave them the safety of a small town with the benefits of a city nearby.
Well, I kind of think I did the same, but it's really hard not to do that in Australia because most cities are kind of what's the word? Insular, and they're far apart, if that makes sense. So I grew up in Brisbane, but like Brisbane region, but I actually grew up in a Sunshine Coast, which I'd say is a smaller, more not a city vibe. It's kind of rural regional, I guess you'd call it, but it's still a Sunshine Coast. So it's kind of residential as well, but it's not the city. I grew up near the water and, near farms. And I tried as much as possible to do that for my children, but they wanted to live in the city, because, and it's just like, I've given them this peace and this stuff that I didn't have as a child, which I just wanted peace and quiet and not to have to be around people constantly. And I tried to do that for my children, and it turns out that my daughter actually wants to live in the city.
Go figure.
Yeah.
My older daughter, she used to, when we would drive to the city, she'd go, cars. And she would make a face. Oh, she doesn't like the smell of cars. But now she lives in a city that's basically attached to Detroit, Michigan. So she lives on the Canadian side. Detroit is the American side. And so she lives in a fairly large city type area. And yeah, it's just, boy, the places we
The
end
thing is,
up, right?
I think it's really hard to satisfy children when they're younger
Yep.
because they're always thinking about bigger and better things. It's only
Yep.
once you get to an adulthood and you realize that what I had as a kid wasn't all that bad.
Exactly.
Mine was pretty bad, but my kids, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Considering it could have been a lot worse. And to be
Oh, yeah.
honest, I'm really grateful because even though my kids have gone through more than what people should go through,
Hmm.
they've turned out to be pretty cool people. Like I like my kids, like as people. Sometimes
That's
me and my
nice.
daughter don't always get along, but I still like her. She's hilarious, you know. Both my kids are so funny, and
Oh, yeah. As a
that's what I
parent,
like.
that's
I
really
like,
the best you can ask for. Are my kids people I would want to hang out with? Yeah.
yeah, and I do.
Okay.
I
You did
genuinely
good.
like hanging out with my kids. Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
I think my kids are good people. They're funny. They're caring. Um, Me and my daughter don't always get along, but that's a natural thing, you know. It happens. Me and
Yep.
my mum don't get along either. but,
Oh, yeah. Well,
but it's just I'm pretty happy with the way things are. I just wish I had have known about me being neurodivergent a lot sooner because it would have made my parenting a bit more knowledgeable, I guess.
hmm
Like
hmm
I would have come at it from a point of, okay, I'm reacting this way because I'm neurodivergent. It's not because it's like my cheese story earlier. That was because I'm neurodivergent and don't like change. And I
right.
don't like what's and my son's leaving soon and there's a big change because he's been in my life for 24 years
Oh,
and he's going to
yeah.
be a whole state away, hours and hours and hours and hours away.
Yeah.
And
That's a rough one.
yeah, I guess I'm feeling this empty nest syndrome thing that people go through. And yeah,
Hmm.
and I actually feel like it's a bit of a risk to my sobriety.
That is not a good thing. Something that, like I said before, the benefit, the one benefit I will say that this whole pandemic-y, whatever this whole thing was, is now we have platforms like this where it's more natural to speak to somebody over a computer screen or a video phone or something like that, right? And so if I want to talk to my daughter face to face, I just hold up my phone and there she is, you
Yes.
know? And just in that Australia has all of their cities so far apart. Canada's such a huge nation, like being 28 hours away from my child sucks. I'll give you that. Absolutely. But she's right there as soon as I need her. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I'm
know.
very
My mum's
fortunate.
she's over in New Zealand. She can call me whenever she wants, and I can ignore it if I want. But it's just like
Exactly.
my kids are the same. You know, I taught my son how to cook rice very, very young. He did
Okay.
move out with his girlfriend, like his ex-girlfriend, years ago, like a few years ago. I'd
Hmm.
still get a call every time he wanted to cook rice. So I know I'm
Absolutely.
going to hear from him. I guess it's
Yes.
difficult because I don't hear from my other daughter. I haven't heard from her for 2 years.
Mm, okay.
Um, so it makes it difficult because I am my hyper focus is going and it's turned my world upside down. Like I don't have anything to focus on anymore except for I've kind of made recovery my hyper focus. I spend most of my
Recovery's a
day doing
great, that's an excellent hyper focus. If you're going to hyper focus on something positive that is going to do good for you and for the world in general, sobriety is the way to go, right?
yeah
When your children are in your house and they need you to parent, parenting hyper focus is exactly where you need to be. So you've been doing that for 20 some years, right?
yeah.
And it's
It's
going to
just
be
hard
tough
to
to
shift it.
change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like well now I'm not constantly thinking. Well, when my daughter left, before she left, I was all about the therapies and stuff for her because
Hmm.
I did autism training, meltdown training. I'm all about information and knowledge because with the more knowledge I have, the more power I have to control
Absolutely.
situations, which isn't terribly. It's just I need to control what's around me, what I can
Yes.
control, and so
Yes.
if I know what's happening, then I can control my reactions generally to whatever is happening. So
Right.
um, now that I don't have her to focus on because I was her full time carer
Hmm.
for like seven from the day she was born, but I was
Right.
governmental, official, proper legal carer since 2008, right up until 2 years ago. So, and I never had a break, never anything, and I didn't want one because being a parent brought me joy. It's the only.
Would you ever consider working at a daycare or something like that, where you
Can't
can
stand
be a
other people's
carer?
kids.
I like it. Okay, I get that.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
don't be at all. I understand it fully. Yeah. Other
Yeah.
people's children, I just want to squish. Mine, I just want to squish. It's different. Yeah.
Well, I can't tell other people's kids off. Like, can you stop screaming? It's not my position or my right to tell other people's kids to shut up.
So you have to maybe adjust how you say it, but if you're in a caregiving capacity, like at a daycare or a something like that, then yeah, you can tell people's kids to shut up.
I'd be better with teenagers so I can talk to them about gaming. Little kids don't know anything about Minecraft. So,
Okay.
yeah, no, I did want to be a foster carer for children who are very, like, the teenage kids who are about to age out and nobody really wants to deal with that sort of situation. And but because of something that happened with my ex, I cannot do that anymore because I have a police protection order on me because I defended myself. So that's part of my story. So that's ruined what I was going to do because that was always my goal. I was always going to be that person who was going to be that stable person in a foster child's life who won't just stop talking to them once they turn 18. I wanted to be that person. I can do it now for my nieces and nephews and all that sort of stuff. I've got like multitudes of nieces and nephews, friends' kids, but then I'm the auntie. But I can't do what I really want to do, which is change children who are unwanted feeling children's lives. Yet I'm going to fight for my name and the fact that I wasn't the abuser. That's going to come. But
and I like that word yet. Yet is a great word, isn't it?
Yes.
It is one of the best words yet.
Absolutely.
How are you feeling? Terrible, but not. I will feel better soon.
Yeah. I don't feel better yet, but I will.
There we go. Thank you. That's the phrase I was looking for.
Yeah. So, but it's just, and I think this is back to the neurodivergencies. A lot of it, when you're neurodivergent, change is hard. I'm used to, like, not all people who are, like, autism is a spectrum. It's all a spectrum. So if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
That's right.
Everybody else is different. And so with me, I feel that there needs to be more of an awareness about, especially older women with neurodivergencies, because we're not noticed as much.
No.
It's all about the kids who are yelling and screaming and they have obvious disabilities and disorders, but the ones that are me, I was quiet. I was that kid in class who the teacher barely knew I was there because I was looking out the window daydreaming, all that sort of stuff. But those are the kids who are missed. My daughter, she was not missed because she was kicking principals, climbing trees, all that sort of stuff. She was loud about it. I was quiet. And but she still didn't get diagnosed with autism. It was still thought of as ADHD because she was too violent to be an autistic girl. I'm like, what?
Oh my. Yet a violent autistic boy is considered normal or typical or wow, that's a little bit of a divergence there. Like,
I know. It doesn't make any sense in my brain that
it doesn't.
So most people with autism have ADHD. Not everyone with ADHD will have autism.
Right. Yep. See, I have ADHD, but I do not have autism. My older daughter, around grade 10, started thinking that she might have characteristics of autism. but never mentioned it to me. So she was never diagnosed with anything. So she has characteristics of autism. I cannot say she has autism, but man, she sure has a lot of characteristics. But at the same time, she's
Well,
also brilliant, and she's finished her second Bachelor of Psychology, and she's working toward getting her master's or her doctorate. Like, the girl's hyper focus is studying and caring for people. That's her hyper focus. So
that's,
very grateful for that. My younger daughter, her neurodivergence is ADHD, and she is getting a lot better at masking it, but she also has a bit of social anxiety. So working in a grocery store where she does, oh, there we
I'm
go.
still here. Just blow my
Yep.
nose. I'm doing
All
on
right.
camera.
Working at a grocery store where she does, it's really good because she's really good at what she does. People come to her for answers. She knows what she's doing. She feels incredibly confident at it. So she can deal with lots of people being around. And then when she's through with being around people, she just goes to the back and sorts something, you know? So what we have found in our house is, with neurodivergence, being able to find ways to cope around it and still have healthy life choices. What about your house?
Um, so my daughter wasn't diagnosed until her last year of high school, which is 17.
Mm-hmm.
So before that, it was all about ADHD, and I had no idea. I was one of those parents. Sure, I gave her the medication and all that sort of stuff, but I was always thinking that this is me just dulling my children, because I'm giving them medication so they're suitable and acceptable for a classroom. When they were with me, never on ADHD medication because I can deal with it.
Right.
So, yeah, Tara, attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity disorder is a neurodivergence.
Yes.
But with my kids, I just feel that it was a chaotic household, like chaos all the time. It was sometimes I couldn't. I'm super ADHD. I couldn't finish dinner sometimes until midnight because it would take me that long just to get everything. If I was doing a roast dinner, I'd have to think about when I could plan the lamb and the potatoes and the pumpkin, all that sort of stuff. And all in my head, it's too much. So I would end up just
Absolutely
cooking the roast and would have lamb sandwiches at midnight.
Exactly.
So the amount of times we had dinner at after 10 o'clock at night, probably more often. I mean, we had cake one time for dinner.
That's eggs, flour, all sorts of other things that are really healthy for you. It's just seasoned with a little bit of sugar and vanilla. That's all.
I didn't cook it. It was just cake mix.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But to make up for that, they had salad for dessert. It was just an opposite day. But that's how I ran my house. I didn't have a schedule. Right now I've got all these calendars and everything and whiteboards all over my house. I don't use them. I walk past the one that's got something on it. I don't even know what's on it. I'm sure I wrote it there. I'm sure it's important. But I am completely and utterly disorganized, except for as a parent. When I went to like appointments and all that sort of stuff, I'd have folders of everything that that was my organization. I focused it on my daughter's
everything that they needed, and
it was just about everything else. It was like, nah, you know what? As long as they're eating, if they shower at least twice a week, 3 times in summer, they're fine. But
basically, as long as they don't stink, I'm good.
And I'm still worried about that.
There you go. So it's who was it here saying it? It's not a. There we go. Father Oblivion. It's not a disorder. It's a superpower. And for a lot of people, it can be if they know how to harness it. That's any neurodivergence, is learning how to harness it, right?
Yes. And there's a lot. Sometimes I wonder if disorder is the right word to put on some of these things. But it's true. It is a disorder. It's a disorder of thinking. Because this is it's not easy. Like,
No.
It's easier knowing that this is the reason why I am the way I am, but I would give anything just to not be this way.
How would you choose to be?
I'd like to have regular thinking. I'd like to think like everybody else. But that's not to say that I think that my thinking's wrong, but
Right.
I don't understand a lot. Like, I don't understand people. I don't understand why they are the way they are towards people. It doesn't. So I'm in a constant state of confusion.
Yes.
It's a different order, but you've got to be realistic about these things. It's not a superpower, and I'm glad people go around telling their kids that, because kids deserve to know that they have superpowers. Every kid's got a superpower.
Do. That's right.
But it's not a superpower. It doesn't give me anything special. It doesn't make me feel any better about myself. I'm not walking around going, oh, I'm a hero because I have autism. No, I'm walking around going, I'm not accepted by this world. It's all a bit loud. People are mean. That's how I walk around. That's how my daughter walks around. The amount of times she cried and just wished she was like all the other girls. She wished she could make friends. She wished she wasn't bullied because she looked different. She didn't look different. She's beautiful. She just had her own style. And if I could just, I love that people say it's a superpower, and I love those who think that it's a superpower. But when it's done this stuff to your life, it's not a superpower. It's horrific. It's like saying to someone, you've got schizophrenia. It's a superpower because you can hear voices. What do those voices do, though? Are they good? Are they helping? I don't think it's a superpower. And I'm just saying that as a very hurt person who is, it's not a superpower.
That's very fair. That's very, very fair and accurate. I have friends who have schizophrenia. Yeah. I have several friends with schizophrenia, and it isn't a superpower. It is definitely something that is a hurdle to be achieved over. But fortunately, there is treatment, and there are accommodations that can be made. And so, as somebody with autism, now, do you prefer to be called autistic or a person with autism? Which do you prefer?
I don't know. I guess it's a bit like the girl-woman thing. I really don't care as long as you're not calling me late for dinner.
Works for me. All right.
Yeah. So I'm someone who has autism. I don't know. I can't say it hasn't defined me, because I think it kind of has, because everybody knows me as being autistic, and they've known it since before I did. So, and it was a bit shocking once I was telling my friends, oh, yeah, I've been diagnosed with autism, and they're like, oh yeah, we knew. Well, when were you going to tell me?
Exactly.
Yeah, so it was.
When I was diagnosed with ADHD, I talked to it was because my older daughter was taking psychology classes, and she's like, well, there's this, and I'm like, yeah, I am that, I am that, I am that, I am that. So I go to my psychiatrist because I already knew I had bipolar disorder. And I came up to her, I'm like, so do you think it's possible that I could have ADHD? And she says, of course you do. I'm like, and why haven't we discussed this before? So apparently we've been discussing other things that needed to be addressed more urgently than the ADHD.
Yeah, she probably didn't think you had a problem with it. So, and honestly, I don't think ADHD is my problem, because I don't think it's my particular problem, although I know other people who struggle with it. One of my best friends, she struggles with ADHD hardcore. And actually, that's another thing. People with ADHD can struggle to hold a job for longer than 6 months at a time. And it's something that's not really looked into much. They don't know why it is the way it is. And but my friend is a perfect example. Like, she'll work 6 months, loves her job. One thing will go wrong, can't go back. And I wouldn't say that's, defined. That's a definite ADHD thing, but it's because of her ADHD.
For sure.
Yeah.
So when she doesn't want to go back, is it because she can't show herself, show her face, or is it because she's done something so terrible that she's not welcome back?
Oh no, it's more so that someone else has said something to her that's inappropriate, and she works in aged care. And
Okay.
yeah, as an Indigenous Australian, there's lots of older Australians who aren't fans of Indigenous Australians. So she copped a
No.
lot at work, and they didn't support her. So she couldn't go back. And it wasn't because she didn't like the work or the people. It's because her employers weren't supporting her. So this is when I think, people with ADHD need to get a little bit of support, extra support.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not even that. I mean, just if you're struggling at work, whoever you are, whatever you got, your employers should support you, because without workers, what have they got? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't think it should be defined by anything.
In Canada, I'm very grateful that we do have a fairly reasonable, I think, amount of knowledge going toward neurodivergence, mental illness, not addictions in general. Um, our mental health ministry is called Mental Health and Addictions, because we deal with it all together as a single unit. Because you can't deal with an addiction without dealing with the mental health, and you can't deal with the mental health without dealing with the addiction. So that's all
Well, that makes
together.
sense. I wish they did that here. Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
They don't do that here. They just deal with the what's the word? The symptom rather than the causes of things. It's just
Exactly. Yeah. I work with the Schizophrenia Society, which is how I have friends who have schizophrenia. And I've been with them since 2011. And in that amount of time, being able to see in real time the amount of change that has happened with breaking stigma of neurodivergence, mental illness, addiction, asking for help, medications, other treatments, and that kind of opportunities has just absolutely expanded. I mean, really, it's just been insane.
It is insane. I mean, there seems to be fads. Like for a while there, it was cool to be bipolar. Everyone was like, "Oh, I'm so bipolar."
It's not cool to be bipolar.
No, but they were saying, but it was used as like a throwaway term, and and at the time, I was diagnosed as bipolar, misdiagnosed by the way, but my mum's bipolar, and so I'm walking around going, "Yeah, oh." What, you feel a little bit happy when you're sad like 2 seconds ago? That's not bipolar. Sorry. That's just life. But
that's right.
Yeah, and but now it seems to be, I'm autistic. I'm so autistic. And it's just like, why?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me that people would just throw it away. Like throw away that term like that.
What features of autism do you exhibit?
All of them. See how
so for those of us who don't know really well, please explain.
Okay. So it's really hard to define, basically, but I don't know. I'm autistic. I haven't really thought about what makes me autistic, other than I see how I'm not looking at the screen right now.
Yeah.
That's on purpose, because I don't like looking in other people's eyes, and I don't want people looking in mine.
Very fair.
So I've learnt over time that I can look like I'm looking in someone's face if I look about here.
Yeah.
And then it looks like I'm looking at them, and they, instead of being like, "Why are you looking at me?" I'm like, pretending. There's just a whole range of different things. I've never really thought about what makes me autistic, other than I am. Because everything about me is who I am, and there's nothing.
Exactly.
I can't think of anything that, because I don't have the layer.
Well, because she has studied it, she has been able to go into the layers and say, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this. And so for her, not understanding sarcasm is a big thing, or nuance to a conversation or something like that.
Sarcasm is my one thing that I do really well. I don't know why, but I more often than not, everything that comes out of my mouth is sarcastic.
Oh no, she has no problem doing sarcasm. Understanding other people's sarcasm, not as much.
It depends. It just depends. Okay. It's all about context.
Very true. Yes.
Yeah. See, context is important for me. If I can understand the context, I can understand the rest of the sentence. So
absolutely.
Or anything, it's just about context. So, but that's interesting, because I don't know where I was going with that, but my thought's gone off now because I'm just going down a rabbit hole.
Yep.
Yeah. But I'm just looking up now. See everything that they're saying here, like aversion to maintaining eye contact, yes. Lack of proficiency with use of non-verbal gestures. No, I can do that. I do have stilted and scripted speech. So I was saying that the other day, the meeting. So if I'm going to make a phone call to someone, like a business phone call or something, I have to write down what I want to say, like points. Sometimes I'll even write down exactly what I want to say when I first call, because I don't know how to talk to people who I don't know. So it's very difficult for me to just pick up the phone and ring up someone about anything, because I don't know them and I don't know what they're going to expect from me. So I write out a script and I'll stick to that script. And generally I get what I need done. But I can't do conversations without scripts. And I kind of do that with people too. Like this today, I thought out of what I might say or what we might talk about. All out of the water. I can't remember what it was. I should have written it down.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm a very fly by the seat of my pants kind of person, and that's part of my ADHD. Is if I have things too scripted, I find that constraining. Whereas my daughter, when it's very scripted, she finds that freeing, because then she knows where she needs to be, right? So it's she and I have opposite needs when it comes to that.
Honestly, my autism and my ADHD are at battle all the time, because I like things being tidy and neat. My autism likes things being. My autism is OCD. My ADHD can't be bothered. So inside, I'm looking at my desk, going, "This is really annoying because I got this here, this here. This isn't all tidy." But my ADHD is like, "You can do it tomorrow."
The duality of life. Yeah. Yep, exactly.
It is what it is. This isn't that important. It's annoying, but it can wait.
I have a question for you. You say that your area is unstructured or disorganized, but do you know where everything is in that disorganization?
Yes.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's the way I am too. Pardon?
Do you do piles of stuff? Do you have like
I
piles?
totally do. Oh, I should pick up my camera and show you all the way around the room in here. Oh yeah, totally. I have piles
and
everywhere.
if someone messes with my pile, it's really annoying because I know where stuff is in that pile.
Exactly. That's right.
It was really annoying. My ex would try and clean up because he'd clean up. I didn't know where anything was.
Yes. My mom does that to me. She is a fanatic cleaner. I refuse to say somebody is OCD or has OCD unless they actually do, because not everybody who is picky about something has OCD. I am picky about certain things.
It's a disorder. It's another obsessive compulsive disorder.
And it's another disorder, and it is a disorder with some distinct downsides. And that's where people, they don't see the downside necessarily. So I'm very picky when it comes to getting my nails done, doing my hair, things like that I do professionally. I want the same level of care that I would give to somebody else. To me, that just makes sense, right? So with my mom, I grew up in a home that was not a happy home at all, but it was very tidy. It was very clean. My mom grew up in a home that was very poor, very unhappy, and she grew up with 4 older brothers, so not really organized. So her way of organizing her life and keeping control was to clean. And so I rebelled, and that was my form of rebellion, I guess. I would rather have a happy home than a clean home. But it's also it's not dirty. It's just untidy. It's messy. It's cluttered. My husband is very neurotypical. He's an engineer. I don't know if you know much about engineers. That's a neurodiversity all unto its own. And he's hi, honey.
But Tara's an engineer as well.
Oh, okay. So yeah, just having order, having like everything has a place and everything's in its place and all of that. He would love living with my mother with that sort of idea, but then he would go absolutely nuts because she's really militant about it. I've taught him to be more flexible over the years. We've been together for 33 and a half years. So it's
I couldn't imagine being stuck with in love with someone that jokes.
No, that's
I think
fine.
lovely.
That's fine.
No, I think it's lovely.
I at times I feel almost apologetic when I say how long we've been together, because so many people have not a clue what it's like to be with one person for that amount of time and actually live in the same house and, do everything kind of together, not everything together, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like my best girlfriends, whatever, no problem. I could definitely be with them for however many dozens of years, but I don't have to live in the same house. I don't have to sleep in the same bed. I don't have to eat all the same meals and, that kind of thing. But I also then look at, I am not an easy person to be married to. Let me tell you. So, I mean, the man's a bit of a hero here.
Well, I was actually trying to think. No, I'm pretty annoying. Like, I got upset about someone cutting cheese wrong, So just imagine what I'd be like on a big issue. I'd be like, ah!
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
So
the
fight isn't actually about the cheese. It's about, and then the cheese is just kind of the thing that cut it.
The cheese with the catalyst. But it's
That's right.
I always think it's lovely. Like, I've never known personally people who've been together that long, but I still think to know that it's possible is lovely.
Okay.
Yes. Is it toxic relationships? I'll be talking about that another time.
There you go.
Yeah. But it is. It's basically a toxic relationship, but you don't know that you're in it until you're in it.
Right. Right.
But also, that's the thing. Neurodivergent people with neurodivergencies and disabilities of any type are 50% more likely to be in domestically violent relationships or be abused or taken advantage of.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. They
twice as
they don't feel like they deserve the respect, or they don't know that they deserve the respect that every human being should get, right?
Not even that. A lot of it's they're targeted because people who would do that, they target people who are weaker than them. So that's why people with disabilities and all that sort of stuff. And people just say me. I didn't realize that what was happening to me was actually abuse until someone else told me that it was abuse and it wasn't okay. Because and that's not to say that that's because of my neurodivergencies. It was because of the way I grew up, and it all seemed normal. Yeah. So, but it's a lot of it is the fact that you can't come forward because who's going to believe you? You're just I don't want to use the word, the R word.
Yeah.
Just be happy that someone wants you. Blah, 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 like.
Or I love you, but these people wouldn't understand you. I love you, but, this is, I love you, but you're no good at this. I know, isn't that awful?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but.
Yeah, exactly.
When I really want to annoy someone, I'll put a but in my apology. Because just know that I don't really mean this. I'm sorry, but you did this to me.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like there's actually a because DV is quite close to my heart. Not intentionally. It's not like I'm going around, I love DV. But
no, but understandably.
So there's a TV series. I think it's called See What You Made Me Do. It's on SBS. I'm sure you can get it in other countries if you wanted to put on an eye patch or something. But it's so good because it's like it's showing that society still blames victims for being victims. So, the whole title of it, See What You Made Me Do, is someone saying to their victim, I did this because of the way you acted rather than I couldn't have control over my own actions. We're blamed for it. So and that's what I'm scared about.
When I was in high school, I dated a guy. And prior to dating this guy, I was not always a faithful, good girlfriend. So he's like, no. And he was 5.5 years older than me. So I was 17. He was 22. He's like, I will not put up with this, and this. And I'm like, okay, no problem. And so for the longest time, there was no problem until one of my friends lied and told him I was messing around on him. And then that friend got some of his friends to tell him the same things, because she's like, oh, you know what Kim's doing? Kim's doing this. And I had no leg to stand on because of my history. So he started blaming me for things that I had not been doing. And it's like, okay, if I'm going to get blamed for it, I may as well do it, right? So I did. And it was stupid, but I did. I was young. Years later, I talked to another friend who was a friend of ours jointly. And he's like, you know, this guy treated you like an afterthought. I couldn't stand watching him treat you like an afterthought like that. And looking back, it's like, okay, yeah, he stalked me. He treated me, everybody else was more important than me. I was in the process of trying to remove myself from the planet. And he didn't want to talk to me because he was busy playing video games with the guys. And this is how important I was, right? And so now I tell people, you know, that's not okay. And that's all before I had done anything wrong in the relationship. And so I tell people when I talk about my mental health, I'm like, okay, I was in this type of relationship, and something you need to know, like, he wasn't hitting me or anything. So is that really abuse? And then my next line is, absolutely it is. Because studies have shown that type of abuse becomes physical abuse later on in the relationship. And so I am so grateful I was not in that relationship. I became best friends with a young man who taught me what it was like to be respected, to be loved, to be treated like I had a brain and like I was worth more than just what he wanted, right? I ended up marrying that guy. So, I mean, I'm so grateful because I know what it could have been.
We've had the opposite, because I had someone finally come along and do all that for me, and he turned out to be my worst abuser. The one I can talk about now.
Yeah.
Because he gave me all the things I missed out on. And he knew that, because one of my other things that I do is I overshare. So I'll meet someone and I'll just, because if they tell me something, my way of relating is relating it back to something that I've been through myself.
Me too.
It's a very ADHD trait. It's a very neurodivergent trait. Well, apparently people call it trauma dumping, which I don't understand. Okay. Like if someone, I don't know, it's something I saw on Facebook where someone was saying something that they'd been through. Someone else came along and said that they relate and, you know, how bad it was and all that sort of stuff. And they explained their story. Some other comments came along and says, don't trauma dump on her story. I'm like, isn't this whole thing just a big trauma dump? Like, isn't this the whole meaning of, you know, sharing this sort of stuff, to say, I see you, I've been through it, it's not good.
See, to me, that is not trauma dumping. To me, that is commiserating with somebody.
Commiserating, yeah. And I just see it as sharing life, sharing experience. I mean, I don't talk about the weather. I'm not a small talk person. I'll do it when I go to the shopping centre. Yeah, a bit warm today. Yeah, I'll do that 15 million times, because it's always warm in Australia. But it's like, but it's not what I do in general. Like, I'm a big thoughts, big talker. I don't want to sit around talking about the weather. I want to talk about life and how to fix problems and big issues, you know?
Yes. Yeah, so, people think that having neurodivergence means that we're not very smart. It means that we can't think deeply. It means that we can't, all of these big things that you think that you have to be neurotypical. And I do air quotes a lot, which probably annoys people. It would annoy me if I was watching me. So anyway, but it's one of those things. You look like you wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I can't remember. I was just reading the comments and I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, there's also a different, so there's, that's what I was going to say. There's also the stigma for people with autism that we're super smart. We must be some sort of savant or something, you know?
Right. I
can't math. I know words. That's about it. And I can draw, but I'm not like spectacular. There's nothing about me that is like, oh my God, she's a savant, except for in jokes.
Yeah.
But even then, I think I'm funny. That's all that matters. But there's something that comes along with autism as well. My daughter, she didn't test well. She's incredibly smart, super smart. Sit her down in front of a piece of paper, get her to do a test, freeze. So we had to figure out a way of testing her that wasn't a test. But that's something that happens a lot with people with neurodivergencies. They're thought of as super smart, can't test. Everyone's like, oh, what happened? Well, you didn't provide an environment where they could succeed.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. I have a friend, I've recently met him, but he's now dating one of my very good friends. And he has a daughter who's very smart, but she has a learning disability that apparently they can't name. And from what you're talking about, it sounds almost like she has autism. But she's been through all sorts of different testings, and they've done lots of different things. And apparently they can't find a name for what she's got going on. So
well, there's a range of different things. So
yeah.
I have a range of different things as well. So I've got dyslexia. The reason why I'm better at words is because I learned how to read when I was 4. So I see patterns of words, but ask me to spell something out, I'll get it all wrong. I write words backwards. My words come out wrong. But there's something else that's like dyslexia, and it's for numbers.
Yes.
So, and there's another one. There's something else, and it stops you.
You can't write.
That's another one, and there's a whole bunch of but this particular one, it's like dyslexia, but it also affects the way you walk. It affects the way you talk. It affects the way you learn. I'm very bumpy. Like I can't walk through a doorway without banging on one side, and I'm not like door frame size, so I should be able to do it.
I'm kind of door frame size, but I have what I call wait a minute close. I'm just going to stand up. So I have like this kind of thing, and it'll catch on the door handle or something like that. So it's like, oh, wait a minute.
I got this. I love when you dress. I got this cord on my because we've got these handles that are like hooky handles. I walk past and like, well, this is going to rip. Yeah. But it's something that comes along with it, and you'll find that it does stem. A lot of it is they call it comorbidities. So the things that come along with having a particular thing. There's all these extra things that you could or couldn't have. So I have this thing called echolalia. I have a whole bunch of the echoes. So I will repeat words that I like the sound of over and over and over and over again. There's also, I think someone was talking about humming like earlier today. I think in Knitting a Meeting. I like to hum because it sounds good in my ears. And also there's the thing where you copy people's movements. So say if I'm in front of someone who is big showy. Mirroring. Yeah, it's mirroring, but it's not mirroring. Because it's kind of mirroring, but it's different. It's like there's special names for. I wrote it out the other day, but I've forgotten it now. But so say if I'm talking in front of a very expressive Irish person, I'll start sounding and acting like that person. And I'm not doing it because I'm being rude or anything. It's actually it's subconscious. It's not. I'm not doing it consciously. It's also a way of relating. I don't do it to people I don't like.
Suppose, I don't like you. I'm not going to act like you.
Pretty much. And I can normally tell if I don't like someone before I know that I don't like them, if I won't start saying stuff if I talk a long time like them.
Okay.
I only really figured it out recently. It's like I can't handle the sound of people chewing. Like me, I've got a clunk in my jaw, so I can hear me chew. I hate it. That's another reason I'm not good with eating at the moment, because I can hear myself chew. But I don't mind it in people I like. So my kids, I've never had a problem with them like being disgusting to leaders or other people that I like. I can tolerate them. I knew I didn't like my ex anymore when I couldn't handle the way he ate. I'm like, oh, that's it. I don't like the way he's sounding when he's eating. I know it's over now.
No, my older daughter has misphonia as well. Misha, that's right. It is the sound of people eating in particular that really drives her crazy. And she's like, I know it's a me problem. It's a me thing. You eat. I'm a wet chewer. I don't try to be a wet chewer, but chewing gum, you can always hear.
I don't like imagining what that sounds like.
But you can hear me chewing gum, and I'm not trying to be gross. That's just the sound my mouth makes.
It's better for your mouth anyway. There's a scientific reason to have a wet mouth. It's Good for
Yes,
teeth.
it is. It gets rid of bacteria and plaque and all that other stuff better. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how just these disorders, these I can't even talk right now.
Yeah.
Neurodivergences. There we go. These neurodivergences, they make us individuals and they make us special. Now, I'm not saying that it's a superpower because you're right. It sucks. It deeply sucks. But the fact that I can look at my daughter and say, okay, I recognize in her what I see in you. I love her. I can easily love you. Right. And that's kind of how I see how this moves in my life. Right. I tend to look things that way.
I it's I have to say, as much as it's difficult, I would take it back. If I could be born and not be this, I would take it back. But I can't. So I have come to accept that my difficulties have made me who I am, a better person, more understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't very nice when I was younger. Like I was mean, and I was
Mm.
always right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you're saying that thing, when kids get to 20, actually mine was about 18.
Oh,
So
there you
once I got
go.
to 18, I'm like, you know what? I know more than all these parents, all these adults. Didn't, but it took me a
No.
few years to recognize it. But it's true. It does happen when you get to a certain age and you know better. You are better.
Yeah.
So, and I
Yeah.
was that. And I thought in black and white because I
Mm-hmm.
knew right from wrong because I grew up in a
Right.
wrong household. And
Right.
I thought I'd be better. So,
Well, and
uh,
I always told my daughters that I would never make the same mistakes my parents did because my parents made some really big bad ones. But I made all brand new creative mistakes. I mean, my mistakes are all my own mistakes, and in a lot of ways what I did wasn't as damaging, but still a lot of the things I did were damaging to my children. And I have to own that, right? And it's something that my younger daughter and we have talked about it a lot, a lot. She feels very deeply just in general. And her best friend, Cosmic, is so much like you. And she has levels of autism. She has dyslexia. She has ADHD. She has all of the same types of things that you do. And like seeing her in you, again, that just makes me go, oh, I love you so much. But anyway, that's only because I love her so much. She's my extra daughter. She really is. Um, that's something that because I have had these people around with these neurodivergences, I can speak intelligently, empathetically, all of this to other people who have maybe not the same ones, but something similar, right? So in that way, yeah, it's not a superpower. It deeply sucks, but I can also say, you know what? I get it. I really do.
and I
Um,
totally understand why parents tell their children that. And I would never
mhm,
take that away from a child.
mhm.
If some kid comes up to me and says, I've got autism, I've got a superpower, I'll be like, high five, me too. Woo.
Yeah,
And I wear a cape, so I look like I've got a superpower.
there you go.
But
Yes.
yeah, but it's just something that they also need to recognize that it can make stuff difficult, but it's not because of them. It's not
No,
because of the child or, the person who's got autism. It's because of the world and society, and it's not built for us.
no, that's right. It's like having like being left-handed, right? My
I
sister
know.
is left-handed.
Scissors.
Yeah, exactly. Try find a pair of scissors or a serrated knife. Like that. They're not made for people with left hands.
Just realised that
You
my
know?
butter knives only have serrations on one side.
Yeah, yeah. So all these things that you don't even think that you have to think about, and suddenly there it is, right? So yeah, no, it's one of the places that I get to talk about mental illness is at a women's shelter, and every time I go in there, I look at these women who are beaten down. They're in the worst place they've ever been, or at least they've just gotten out of the worst place they've ever been. They feel like they are worth nothing. They feel like they are lower than dirt. And I will look at them and I will say with absolute 100% sincerity, you women are heroes. You women are so courageous, so strong. Right now, you don't feel it, but you are so strong. My mom didn't know she could do that. She stayed until my dad was arrested. And that's when she left. And she left because her brother said, you know, either you leave or I'm coming to get you. But at the same time, it's one of those things where I can look at these women and say, you know what, you are strong. You have the power to step out and step away. Fortunately, I am so grateful we live in a country where there are really good places for these women to go, right? There's not enough of them. There will never be enough of them.
Because you're in Canada, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. So being able to say to somebody, you know what, you had the courage to do this, even though you feel this big, frankly, for your children, it is the best thing you could have ever done.
I was in a few refuges. I've been to a few. And one of the things that I got told, because it takes an average of 7 times for an abused person to leave that particular relationship. So for it to be an average, it could be anywhere from once to who knows how much. And so I was in my the third refuge, and I'm thinking, this is the third time. When am I going to get it? Because I kept going back because I didn't feel like I had any choice. And this was years and years ago. And someone told me that statistic. I don't know if it's an international statistic, but it is for Australia. And it actually made me feel better because I'm like, okay, so it's an average of 7 times. This is my third. 4 more times to go, max.
Yeah.
It was a way of saying, like, okay, so if it takes an average, it's because sometimes you need to keep going through the same thing over and over again for it to stick. And it's something that Kristy, Conversations with Kristy, has said. You keep going through the same thing because you haven't learned your lesson. And sometimes the lesson is you are enough, you're strong enough, you're good enough, get out.
Yeah.
And that was my final lesson. And it took someone putting their hands on my kid for me to leave,
Yeah.
because up until that, my kids insist that they were beaten. No, it was me. But this last time, that's not to say I agree with everything they said, because they went through it too, and seeing a parent be abused is as impactful and as bad as being abused yourself. So, but this last time, I'd already been planning it. I'd moved everything out like weeks and weeks and weeks. I'd started packing up boxes. And my house was a fully furnished house, so I didn't have to worry about furniture. The ex knew stuff was going on. He's like, "Where's everything going?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just decluttering," because I didn't know, and I was talking to the 1-800-RESPECT and the DV helplines and all that sort of stuff over here, just planning, because I didn't know where I was going to go. Didn't know anyone. I was just me and my kids. As far as I was aware, my back had been. Everyone in my family had turned their back on me, and so I ended up leaving because he tried to hurt my son, and I'm like, that's it. And I kicked him out of the house, which was big for me because
that's huge.
Yeah. So, and then the next morning we were gone, and I get these calls, and I still feel like it's the worst thing I've ever done to any human in my life. Is just up and leave. And just disappear. It was cruel. It was harsh. I could never do it to anyone again, but it was necessary because I wouldn't have survived. So the one thing that I feel like I've done that's the worst thing I could ever do to any human, I did it because I had to. Everyone else, I talk to other people about it, and they say, "Oh no, it's fine. He did it to himself." Sure, okay. But how would you feel if that happened to you?
Yeah.
So that's what I live with.
Absolutely.
But I'm living with it. So
yes,
I'm not dead.
That's the thing.
I'm still there.
For better or for worse, we are the sum of our choices, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Oh
it is what
boy.
it is. And to be honest, I was also one of those people, because my dad used to beat up my stepmother all the time. No one ever saw it, but I heard it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd be like, no one's ever going to do that to me. No man's ever going to lay their hands on me. I would kill him.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
Yeah.
and didn't work out that way. But
No.
yeah. But it is, like, I keep saying it is what it is, but that's because it is. You can't change what is.
That's right. You
What's
can't
already
change
happened.
what's happened. That's exactly right. You're exactly right. Yeah, you can't
So
change
I
what's
just have
already happened. All you can do is change the direction you're going, right? So I
yeah.
always said, for my mom in particular, after having a terrible first marriage, she finally got out and she spent some time alone working on herself. And then when she was ready to move on, she had some very specific criteria. And we're not talking, oh, I want somebody, tall, dark, and handsome or whatever. There were physical attributes, but there were some very specific, he must be this. And they were non negotiables. And it made her search very narrow. But her second husband, wonderful man. Best stepdad I could have ever asked for. He was fabulous. And he was my dad for 26 years. Ended up dying with Alzheimer's. And then again, it took a few years. She took some time away being single, and she's like, okay, I need to move on again. And again, she had a very narrow criteria. And her third husband, also an excellent man. So, like you said, Cosmic, if you've learned from it, then great. Sometimes you have to go through it before you learn from it. Fortunately, though, she spent a whole lifetime, before she met my stepdad. And yeah, it was the best thing that she could have ever done is marry that man.
Oh, I'm so pleased.
Yeah.
I love hearing happy endings.
She gives me hope.
I'm all about the fairy tales.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, well, see, that gives me hope too. But it's not like I have to deal with my last relationship before I move on to another one, because that's not just baggage. It's a freight ship.
I was gonna say that's a whole trailer full. Yeah,
No, it's a freight ship. It's a ship. It's a ship. Those shipping containers are full of stuff. So it's just and it's not fair of me to take that into something else, especially when I know how angry I am about the whole thing. So I'm not trying to be cryptic. I'm just trying to figure out what it is I want to share, all that sort of stuff.
And that's very fair. What I'm going to say for you as my piece of advice, I'm doing I'm driving myself nuts with the little thingies again. Anyway.
I do it all the time. Quotes.
Okay, air quotes. The piece of advice I said that I would never give, but I'll give you, is work on yourself. And when you're ready, if you're ever ready, you will know. And at that point, you will meet the right person who will look at your baggage and say, you know what? You are who you are because of it, and I love you.
It'll be a cat.
It'll be a cat. There you go.
I like cats.
But will it be a calico? Will it be a tortoiseshell? Will it be a tabby? What will it be? What kind of cat? You have to go for that.
I want one of those hairless ones because they look creepy.
My friend Samara, I don't know if you've watched my channel, but my friend Samara has long blonde hair and a hairless cat. She is the sweetest kitty. Oh my goodness, very creepy looking, very, very creepy looking. But she's so soft. It's like petting velvet. You know how you have like your squishmallows.
You have to moisturize them and stuff, and they're so cute.
It's like petting one of your squishmallows. That softness there is just wonderful. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I could be that person who is not meant to be for anybody.
And that's okay too.
Yeah, I think
being
that's fine.
single can be a real blessing because then you don't have anybody you have to answer to. You don't have anybody you have to look out for. Just look out for yourself, right? You plan a vacation for one person. It's a whole lot simpler than trying to plan a vacation for four.
I don't have to share the remote.
Exactly. Exactly. You can eat all the pudding. You don't have to share that with anybody. So,
Except for Tequila, my dog. So yeah. But
oh,
thank you.
dear.
This has been really. I wanted all month to talk about the neurodivergencies, and I didn't really get to talk about how it affected my addiction, but that's actually linked to my ex stuff as well. So
Right.
there's a whole everything links into everything. But
It does, doesn't
um,
it?
yeah, you'll find that a lot of people with neurodivergencies and ADHD, especially, do self-medicate with substances because it
Mm-hmm.
calms them down, or they feel like it calms them down. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but I would recommend that if you feel that you need some sort of substance, go speak to a doctor, because
Mm-hmm.
having a regulated, proper medication that could help you is much better than,
Makes all the difference, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you can't really get medicated for autism. I don't
No,
know,
no, that's true. But
but
you can go and get coping skills. Go to somebody
exactly.
who will help you with coping skills.
But also, if
Yeah.
you got children who, this is something I wish I'd have known when my children were a lot younger.
Mm-hmm.
Especially anger issues. There are medications out there for autistic children to help with anger issues, because it's overwhelming. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
it's not the anger is overwhelming, and
Yeah.
it's called autism rage. And I
Oh,
went into it about the cheese the other day. uh,
okay.
yeah, and it's something that the children can't control. If they're not doing it, it's all in the amygdala. So
Mm-hmm.
I just that's one of the reasons why, as much as I don't like other people's kids screaming at the shopping market, I'm still
Yeah.
thinking like, poor kid. Well, it's probably too many lights, too many noise.
You're exactly right. Yeah, you don't know what's going on inside that child's brain.
Yeah.
What's happening. Yeah.
So I just feel like if we as adults went around treating children as not like little adults, they are still children, but as little humans,
Yes.
little humans, and a lot of children don't get treated as human. They're just kids. For a long time there, they thought children didn't feel pain.
I know. Yeah. That's why they would
So
circumcise baby boys without any sort of anesthetic. Yeah.
hmm,
Can you imagine?
there, I had a big fight with my kid's dad about that. I'm like, all right, my son gets it, so do you, in the same way.
I bet that stopped the argument, didn't it?
No, he's like, I'm already circumcised, and I'm like, not the way I'd do it.
I'll take an extra 2 inches off. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. So it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, I just feel like we just need to go. Well, actually, everybody, we're all little humans. We don't know what everyone else is going on throughout the day. We don't know
Exactly.
that person who's really annoying on Twitter. Used to be my thing.
Yeah.
I used to go and annoy people on Twitter.
Yeah.
Just start little, I'd call them debates. But the other side, they're a little bit more upset than I was. I was just doing it for
Yeah.
dopamine and fun. But I stopped
Yeah.
because I realized that I don't know what this other person is feeling that day. And I could say something that could be really upset them. And that for the rest of the day, I'm just having a laugh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I stopped that. I don't do that anymore. And I try and
Okay.
treat everyone the same way. Like if someone is up yelling and all that sort of stuff in the street, instead of thinking, oh, nut job, I'm thinking, oh, what's wrong?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly. You have such a big heart. I love that about you, Cosmic. You do.
Thank
You have
you.
such a huge heart, and you wear it on your sleeve. Like that's the thing is with autism, you also don't have a lot of a mask. That is one thing that I will say is beautiful about you is that you don't mask as much as some people, right?
I don't have the ability. I think once my mask got broken, I can't put it back
Yes.
together again.
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't know if I want
Uh,
to. There's this thing saying like when you mask yourself as an autistic person or as a person in general, you're hiding who you are from the world, and you make
mhm,
yourself smaller because you're hiding who you truly are. So you're making yourself small by masking. When you
mhm.
unmask, you then allow yourself to be big and open to the world. It's got those box mattresses, how they
Oh
come in a
yeah,
box.
they just and there they
Okay, so
are.
I heard the thing when you're masking, you are the mattress in a box. You're all
Ah,
contained, and everything that makes you big and loud and whatever the air is taken out
mhm.
of you, And then when you open that, when you unmask, you're opening the mattress. You're opening the box. And you can't shove that mattress back in the box once it's out. And that's kind of like me in the masking now. I can't shove me back in the box because I'm too big for that box now.
Oh, that is an excellent analogy. Oh, that's
It's not mine.
brilliant.
I got it from, I don't know where I got it. Yeah, but it made so much sense to me. And it's just like, I don't know if I want to get back in the box.
Yeah. Yeah. Who wants to live in a box? I mean, really, that's just no fun. That's their choice, though. Yes, if you try to force them into a box, they won't want to go. If you try to seal the box, they won't want to stay in there.
Yes, trying to get them in a cat carrier. You're like, you were just in there a minute ago.
Yeah, but now you want me there. Yeah.
Yes. So, but this has been really great, and
yes,
I don't really get to talk about. All my friends and family are sick of me talking about this stuff.
Well, if ever you want to talk about it again, give me a shout, because I would be more than happy to discuss neurodivergence, to discuss parenting, to discuss any of those types of topics with you. You have an excellent point of view. You have a point of view that I don't have because you've had different life experiences. And I really appreciate that. So
yeah,
please,
well, that's the reason I love all these groups and stuff, because I get to talk to people from all over the world with different experiences who I can still relate to in the same way, you know?
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kristy. I really appreciate you coming. Thank you, everybody, for being in the chat.
Sorry,
I really. Yes, we'll see you all another time. We'll see you all on Thursday this week. We're going to be talking to Kristen. I had to look at my calendar, make sure I was on the right day. We're going to be talking to Kristen this coming week, talking about how to live within somebody else's reality, which won't necessarily look like your own reality, right? So that's going to be something. It's going to be a very interesting conversation that we're going to have. So I will see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.